Welcome back to the battle between DoNotAge and the other longevity drinks. If you want the intro and explanation of what we're doing, check out the first article, because we're going to dive right into the second ingredient now. The ingredient here is Fucus vesiculosus, also known as bladderwrack, which is a source of fucoidan. Fucoidan is basically what gives structure to the cell walls of seaweed. Given that the name of this product is SIRT6Activator, it makes sense to ask the question, what are sirtuins? Sirtuins are a group of cell-signaling proteins present in all known life forms. In mammals, sirtuins are referenced with all capital letters, like SIRT6. 7 sirtuins have been identified in humans. There's overlap in the locations of sirtuins, with their involvement in NAD+ metabolism being found within mitochondria, cells, and between cells. Does SIRT6 activation improve health? A 2023 review noted that SIRTs 1 and 6 may increase autophagy and slow down the development of COPD and atherosclerosis, as well as some other beneficial effects, but that we need clinical trials in humans before knowing for sure. A comprehensive review in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences describes positive effects for both increasing and decreasing SIRT6. They say, SIRT6 inhibitors are found to inhibit cancer cell growth and promote apoptosis. SIRT6 activators effectively treat diabetes and promote longevity. So we can see that it's a mixed bag as to whether you would even want to activate SIRT6. To make it even more complicated, let's ask another question. Does fucoidan increase expression of SIRT6? There are some reviews of fucoidan in the Marine Drugs Journal, like ones from 2015, 2019, and 2020. The first 2 reviews don't mention any sirtuins, and the last one only discusses SIRTs 1 and 3. Notable other claims about fucoidan in those studies include that it improves immune modulation, cancer inhibition, pathogen inhibition, antioxidation, anticoagulation, antithrombosis, antiviral, anti-inflammation, and neurodegeneration and brain injury, with almost all of those claims being based on evidence in non-humans. A study in the same journal in 2017 made the claim that fucoidan activates SIRT6, but that it does not activate SIRTs 1, 2, or 3, and that it reduces activation of SIRT2. That contradicts the review in the same journal 3 years later, which claims it activates SIRTs 1 and 3, as well as a more recent 2024 research article in the Journal of Translational Medicine, which says fucoidan is a modulator of SIRT1. The review I mentioned earlier noted that none of the compounds they looked at, including fucoidan, were found as highly selective and potent modulators of SIRT6. This back and forth about sirtuin activation has a striking resemblance to resveratrol in the early 2000s, with David Sinclair's team claiming that resveratrol activates SIRT1 when that was really a false positive from the testing method. These DoNotAge sachets also have resveratrol, so we'll get into that more in its own section. Batches of SIRT6 activator are tested for their ability to activate SIRT6 in vitro by Professor Vera Gorbunova, who is also an advisor for DoNotAge and is probably most famous for her research on cancer and aging in naked mole rats. When asked about the testing, Vera said this.
Fucoidan is not a simple molecule where you would say, well, as long as you have the purity, it should work. This family of molecules is called fucoidan, but they differ from one another, and it's not very easy to control what you get. So the best way is to just test it after it's been extracted from the algae. I can talk about what we saw in the mouse trial. Well, I wish we'll have the human data. I hope we'll have it soon, and then we can talk about human benefit. But for the mice, what we observed was reduction in overall frailty, then immune system. So we saw a much better immune function and lower inflammation, which is super important for aging. We also saw reduction of methylation clock age in these mice.
If that's accurate, it potentially explains the inconsistent findings we looked at before. There is a preprint under review by Nature Portfolio titled Fucoidans are Xenotherapeutics that Enhance SIRT6-Dependent DNA Repair. I like looking at preprints to see the latest developments, but we need to keep in mind that the journal peer review process is crucial. It's not a perfect process, but it certainly helps to improve the accuracy of published data. Basically, we should be more mistrustful of preprints than published articles. With that big disclaimer out of the way, the preprint authors state, fucoidan from Fucus vesiculosus displayed potent xenomorphic activity in different types of senescent cells, reduced senescence in multiple tissues in aged mice, and extended health span in a mouse model of accelerated aging. What about clinical trials involving SIRT6Activator specifically, as opposed to fucoidan? I'm aware of two, both headed up by Andrea B. Meyer, who is an accomplished geroscience expert with over 200 publications and 38,000 citations. One is called Project SIRT6Activator, which started in 2025 and is expected to be completed in 2027. It's a placebo-controlled 6-month trial involving 60 pre-frail men aged 50 to 80, measuring multiple endpoints including biological age and clinical aging markers. It'll be great to see the results coming in next year. The other is the Prometheus Protocol trial for the X Prize Health Span semifinals. This is a multi-intervention strategy that uses personalized doses of SIRT6Activator alongside creatine, whey protein, urolithin A, NMN, multivitamins, multiminerals, ergothioneine, physical and mental exercise, exergaming, motivational interviewing involving sleep and dietary recommendations, and CBT. The interventions and dosing were further adjusted halfway through. Obviously, the Prometheus trial is not aimed at validating any single intervention. They're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, into getting their team to win X Prize. There will be no way to tell what effect fucoidan had on the outcome. When there are that many variables, you can't even know if one or more of them had a negative effect that isn't detectable because the other variables are making up for it. So we just can't tell anything from that, which isn't the point. The point is to design a trial that has the greatest chance to reverse measures of aging like muscle, cognitive, and immune function, and in doing so, win $101 million. And I'm really excited to follow the progress. The dose used in both of those trials is 2.4 grams per day, which is more than the 1.6 grams per day dose in this drink mix. This is especially important to consider given that fucoidan may act on the NRF2 signaling pathway, similar to sulforaphane, which could indicate a hormetic effect. I think seaweed and other types of algae are an underrated food source in the West. Even the fact that we call it seaweed shows how much we undervalue this nutritious algae, which is a staple food for some of the longest-lived communities. The only reason fish have omega-3 is because they ate algae, or they ate fish that ate algae. It's a potent source of iodine, and can be a source of vitamin B12 depending on the genus. Seaweed has also been shown to increase numbers of commensal gut bacteria, including those that produce butyric acid, which itself is associated with a host of health benefits. On one hand, this gives me some confidence in fucoidan, but on the other hand, I'd rather advocate for eating seaweed itself instead of an extract. This is the shortest comparison ever, since none of the other mixes have fucoidan. This ingredient is a tough one for me to judge. There are lots of claims about its benefits, but not much in humans, and even the published evidence about its effects on sirtuins is contradictory. The studies that have found benefits in things like neurodegeneration and brain injury recovery have also used huge doses, so I don't see how it's possible to know what effect this smaller dose will have on the human body at this stage. I think it remains to be seen whether this particular structural component of seaweed will be better than just eating seaweed. Seaweed is free to forage, cheap to buy, and it's the ultimate carbon crop, so we really should eat it. So, I'm going to give SIRT6Activator a 2.5 out of 5. That might seem a bit harsh, but this stuff costs money, it comes in plastic containers, it burns fuel to get to your house, etc. So my default rating for any supplement is 0 out of 5. It really has to justify itself to overcome those inherent downsides. This has potential to get a higher score as more evidence rolls in for humans, so now we wait. Next time, we'll look at NMN, which has been in the news a lot lately, so make sure you subscribe to see it. I'll just wait while you do that.